Well, good morning, everyone. This is John Craig, and you are listening to Let Us Reason Together on the Monday morning edition, the second day of the week. Yes, I just said that. I'm your second day of the week host for this show, and it's based on Isaiah 118, which says, "Come now and let us reason together, says Yahweh. Though your sins are as scarlet, they will be as white as snow. Though they are red like crimson, they will be like wool." This is where we sit down, reason out some current events, some cultural shifts, and of course, this week's Torah portion. And we can either push back or push through. Nevertheless, if iron does not sharpen iron, sparks will never fly, let alone ever get a fire going. So without a little heat and a good midrash, how will our hearts ever get soft and moldable enough to be transformed in the way the Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, wants us to be, and maybe have a little fun along the way? It is Monday, August the 19th. Of the year 2019. It is the 18th day of the fifth month of the Hebrew year, 5779. Some people call the fifth month the month of Av. I like to say in the fifth month. And so there we go. I want to introduce my co-host today. And first off, we got the illustrious Mark David Smith. I was going to say Mark David Smith. Mark, are you there?
I am here. Yes, I am.
I'm glad to have you joining me from the great state of North Carolina today. And you're live and well and kicking, it looks like, and shaking.
Well, we're having earthquakes today. You watched the news. You didn't catch the news 15 minutes ago. We're having earthquakes today.
Oh,
it's actually Tennessee and Western North Carolina. But I'm prepared.
Hey, so I didn't know that.
I've actually strapped myself into my chair just in case something happens.
That's really interesting. Eastern Tennessee, Western North Carolina. We just had lots of earthquakes, like 65 in Kansas and Kansas City, and also down into Oklahoma again, which is kind of the shifting. If you ever watch Dutch Sense, you can see how he shows how it starts out there in the South Pacific and it shifts around the tectonic plates, around the Ring of Fire, and then it comes across North America and goes to all these different directions. But very interesting that there's earthquakes that direction.
Fracking. It's just fracking.
Part of it.
So much fracking going on.
He talks about that as well, that all of those puncture holes from the from all those wells, he says there's a strong correlation because down in the Permian Basin, down by the Midland, Odessa area of Texas, they have earthquakes, and there's tons of fracking going down, lots of oil wells in that area as well. And they always shake a little bit as the...
our fracking government, what are we going to do with them?
Exactly. Hey, we've got also Rabbi Darryl Weinberg joining us from this great white North country. And I say white because I always think of Canada as like under snow, except, you guys get a lot more snow than we do. But the great white North, which is actually green right now, isn't it?
It is very green. As a matter of fact, it was brown up until a couple of days ago, but we got some rain the past few days. So praise the Lord. And it is now illustrious out there.
Hey, that's always nice. We had some rain this last week, it kind of brightened things up with some green, and then these 100-degree heaty days. Maybe we'll get some more rain later this week. But the Texas Panhandle is under intense heat, probably more so in the last few years than this year than ever. So, or not ever, but it's just been intense around here. Well, hey, I have some things that we need to talk about as we get into the show. And how about some weird and quirky celebrations today? So, Mark, because I know of your love of music, I have to bring this day is up for you. And it's listening to your favorite music day. You can just take the day off, all of your busy schedule, and listen to your favorite music. How about that?
I really appreciate your letting me know that, because every other day of the entire year, but today, I listen to music that I don't like. Because this is listen to my favorite music day. Today, I actually get to listen to my favorite music.
All right, good. I'm glad now it's official. And how about this one? No morning coffee day. Can you do it? I got a question. Can you do it? No morning coffee? Darryl, what about you? Are you a coffee drinker?
I am.
Yeah. Could you do it without coffee today?
I haven't had coffee since last Thursday.
Oh, very good.
Why?
Why?
All right.
Yeah,
You know-
why?
Because the Lord told me I need to be on a fast for a bit. So there you go.
There you go.
He's already kind of a low blood pressure kind of guy anyway. So,
No, that's my wife.
Daryl's chilling right now. He's just chilling. He's hanging in. All right. So, hey,
The first day was a nasty headache, but after that we were okay.
Water. If water is the best thing, the best remedy, because coffee really does a dehydration thing, and when you get off of it, it's really I've found it's like a lack of water. We're kind of dehydrated. So I really like coffee, but I have stopped drinking coffee, and I haven't had a cup of coffee in quite a while. And Sandy is fixing to join me right now. But last time I had coffee, I just had the jitters and all sorts of stuff. I got off of it for so long.
Oh, I love the jitters.
I want to know
shaking and baking.
How many cups of coffee did you drink a day, Darryl?
It depends on the day, but usually there will be about 3, maybe 4.
Really?
Yeah. We're not talking big mugs, but a standard sized cup. So I'll have maybe 5 or 6 actual cups of water, of coffee.
And so, John, how many cups of coffee a day did you drink?
Okay, so like I said, I don't drink any coffee right now, but when I used to drink coffee every day, all I could really handle is 1 cup.
Oh,
I might get a second cup in, but usually it's just 1 cup.
We have a chain called Second Cup Coffee here in Canada.
There you go. Well, I've just been joined by my lovely wife, Miss Sandy Craig. All right. And how about your coffee drinking?
I've never drank a cup of coffee in my life. So
so there you go.
I'm trying to touch his face. I'm not in the right place.
No.
There.
Yeah, hold on. There we go.
Yay! So okay, but I want to tell you something. I did discover something, and it doesn't give you a caffeine crash, and it doesn't give you the jitters or anything like that. And it's yerba mate. Yerba mate. I'm telling you. It gives you this nice lift. It doesn't jolt you. It gives you this nice lift. It's natural. It's like a tea. It's a South American leaf, yerba mate tree, and it gives you this nice lift. And then when it's done, you just kind of land. It's a nice soft landing. So really, really cool. I like it. All right. So that's yerba mate, and so check it out sometime if you got it. I like the Guayaki brand. But okay, so moving on. Guayaki. If I'm saying it right. So, all right. What's that, Darryl? There'll be coffee in heaven. You're sure of it? You sure about that, Darryl?
Absolutely.
Okay. But I love a good caramel macchiato. I really do. I really like those drinks. But that's like a very, very, very special occasion type of thing.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. At Starbucks, they do. If I go to Starbucks, which is literally never, every once in a while, that's what I'll order just as a special treat. It's almost like eating a cup of ice cream. It's just a special treat.
I'm with you on that. And I'm not a supporter of Starbucks. I'm not, but I do really like them.
And we don't visit Starbucks either.
Well, it's, that $5 cup of coffee is.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Now, see, in the morning, I just get a regular cup, and I will add a little bit of cream and a little bit of dark chocolate, Hershey's dark chocolate, and then a little bit of sweetener. And I drink a half a cup, put it in the refrigerator, and then at 3:00 in the afternoon, I add a little milk to it and drink the rest of it. And let me tell you what, good.
Wow.
Did you see Sandy's face light up when I said dark chocolate? Or
Dark chocolate.
So let's reverse this. No morning coffee day, but have you ever heard of this? A coffee enema.
Oh yeah.
I have heard of it.
Yep.
And it's not like, your roasted coffee, but using the green coffee beans, organic, of course.
Have you done it?
I have not done that, but I've heard some amazing benefits that come.
So are you going to do it?
I'm going to try it someday.
You're going to have a green coffee enema?
I have
Who's going to do
this
it?
thing about, things that go in and out the out zone, but I've heard that it's supposed to be really good for you.
Well, this was a good show, guys.
You never know what you're going to get here.
So are you going to let everybody here at Lamb know when you gave yourself an enema?
I'll let you know. I will let you know. I have also heard that ozone enema is supposed to be really good for you
What?
too. I'm telling you, like,
How would you do that?
I was told by a guy that is a specialist in doing these type of things. See, I run across all sorts of people in my job. That's
why it takes you so long, because you're talking about this stuff.
He said you wouldn't believe the stuff that comes out of you after an ozone enema.
Oh, dude.
just saying. I'm telling you, all sorts of things, and some of them are live. Okay, I'm just saying.
Okay.
All right.
World.
TMI. All right, we're going to move on. I'm just telling you, look it up. Just look it up. Do the research on it. You might say, maybe I need that done. And after it's all done, let's understand, in the weird and quirky celebrations today, it's Large Rose Bouquets Day. So, and it's
from enemas to roses.
And it's also Black Cow Root Beer Float Day, and it's Cupcake Day, National Potato Day, National Sandcastle and Sculpture Day, and National Soft Ice Cream Day. So after you've treated yourself to those things, have a nice soft ice cream cone. Go to Dairy Queen.
I could go to all kinds of places on this one.
I'm sorry. I'm still on the enema thing. I looked it up, guys.
All right. Cancer treatment.
It says it's a powerful cancer treatment.
See? I'm telling you, I'm not just off the wall. Even though it sounds like off the wall. Because why? It's outside of our norm. Let's break the norm. How about some daily quotes today? Positive quote for the day from John Greenleaf Whittier. For all sad words of tongue and pen, the saddest are these, it might have been. That's not positive. What? Okay. Make that into a positive. How about funny quote of the day by W.C. Fields? A rich man is nothing but a poor man with money. Does that make you laugh?
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening to you.
Okay. You'll have to rewind that one.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. Love quote of the day. And this is, this is not my favorite author. It's just on my list. From Stephanie Meyer. I tried to remember how to exhale. I had to look away before it came back to me.
I don't like that one.
All right. How about the verse of the day? Deuteronomy 8:3. This is from the Torah portion. He humbled you and let you be hungry and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that he might make you understand that a man does not live by bread alone, but man lives by everything that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh. What do you got?
Following an ozone enema, a lady expelled a dead 12-inch worm.
There you go.
Ew.
Think about it. What's living that doesn't need to be living in our bodies? I mean, if you eat meat, and it doesn't have to be pork, because we don't eat pork around here. Because you eat meat, just think about stuff. Do you want to eat meat anymore? But
I don't eat a lot of meat. Actually,
but it can also happen if you eat vegetables. It just happens because we live.
So, Sandy, are there pictures?
No, but this article I just pulled up one article. It's fascinating. I'm telling you, it's like, wow, maybe we should all rethink our making fun of John.
Oh, there you go.
Sparky.
Right. So what happened on this day in history? In 1991, do you remember that day, 1991, on this day in history, August the 19th? Yeah. Conservative members of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union attempt to depose Mikhail Gorbachev in a coup d'etat. So, yeah, Gorbachev, he had to face one of those coup d'etat. I bet you it had nothing to do with Russian collusion. Maybe that was Russian collusion. Okay. 2010 on this day in history. That was just 9 years ago. Wow. Operation Iraqi Freedom ends with the last of the United States Brigade combat teams crossing the border to Kuwait. So, but they left others behind. And on this day in history, the Chinese community in South Africa. This is on this day in 1970. The Chinese community. I don't know if they're communist. Chinese community in South Africa is granted white status. Isn't that interesting? They were granted white, but you have to consider back in 1970 with apartheid and all of that. They were an outside group, and interesting that they were granted white status. It gave them more privileges than those that had the black status down there. Not that I agree with apartheid, but it's very interesting in history to me. Okay, how about this? Would you believe that on this day in 1900, it was the start of the one and only Olympic cricket match in Paris? Have you ever played cricket, Sandy?
No.
I haven't either. Darryl.
Played with them.
You guys are subject to the Queen. Do you play cricket up there?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
All right.
We have a lot of Indians up here that do, but we don't.
Yeah.
Baseball, man. Baseball.
You guys are subject to the Queen?
Yeah, really? They're subject to the Queen. They're up there in Canada.
Canada's still part of the British Commonwealth.
Oh.
Yeah.
We didn't rebel like you guys did.
Yeah. You got a lot of our Tories.
And look where we're at today.
Yeah,
right, buddy.
There you go. How about on this day in history? Yes, this day in history, back in 1946, this day in history, there was a certain person born, Bill Clinton. Mark, is that one of your favorite presidents?
No.
No? Okay.
His wife's one of my favorite people, though.
Oh my goodness.
Is your nose swelling?
No.
You like Hillary? Yeah. Bill Clinton.
Hillary Clinton is his wife?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No,
Okay. Just checking. Did you know that he was bookended by a Bush?
I thought his wife's name was Monica.
No, but here on
we're not going there. We're not going.
Oh, okay. I see. I was all.
But his second term was marked and marred by the Monica Lewinsky scandal. That was like one of the number one things, and he was impeached because of it.
Okay.
And nothing happened.
But he was bookended by Bush. Did you know it was a Bush Clinton Bush?
Clinton was impeached.
He was. Yes, he was impeached, but he was not removed from office. So the House of Representatives impeached him, but the Senate did not get rid of him. So, all right. So that was what's going on. How about on the lighter side? Let's jumpstart our brain. Some wit for the day, untwist our brains, and some points to ponder. How about 10 factoids to grasp? All right. Number 1. Bills travel through the mail at twice the speed of checks.
Amen.
All right. Well, number 2, a conscience is what hurts when all of your other parts feel so good. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How about this? A balanced diet. Okay, I'm going to say it just because it's on my list because I got 10. I got to have 10, so it's number 3. A balanced diet is a beer in each hand. Honestly, I don't relate to that one, but that's according to this factoid. How about number 4? Thou shalt not weigh more than thy fridge.
Oh,
is that in the Torah portion?
That's just no, especially if you're Jewish and you have 2 fridges.
That would be sad.
So is it more than the milk fridge or more than the meat fridge?
Yeah, there you go. So,
yeah, right.
We do have 2 refrigerators, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. How How about this? Middle age is when broadness of the mind and narrowness of the waist change places. Should I say that again? Middle age is when the broadness of the mind and narrowness of the waist change places.
Good thing I'm not middle-aged anymore.
Yeah, there you go. How about this? Never lick a steak knife.
You can. You just have to do it from side to side. You don't go like this. You go.
Unless you're a Democrat.
Yeah, there you go. That's right.
You could also go like that, and it would work.
Yeah, there you go. So, wow. I won't go with the vegan side of it either. All right. So, number 7, junk is something you've kept for years and throw away 3 weeks before you need it.
Yeah, before you need it, right?
Yeah, right. But see, Mark, you're like the that little house kind of guy. So you guys had to downsize quite a bit, didn't you?
We're minimalist.
That's right. How about this? Number 8, experience is a wonderful thing. It enables you to recognize a mistake when you make it again.
I thought that was faith.
Yeah, I thought it was insanity, but how about nobody cares if you can't dance well, just get up and dance.
And what's the other part to this?
He's dancing.
Okay.
All right. Staying alive. It's about the song and the dance, right? Okay, how about this? Number 10, and then we'll move on. Never be afraid to try something new. Remember that a lone amateur built the Ark. A large group of professionals built the Titanic.
Okay, that was good.
I've heard that before.
Some points to ponder. Okay, hey, very good. Well, we're ready to jump into the next segment of our Let Us Reason Together show. And Miss Sandy Craig, you've got the Torah portion today. What do you got for us?
What do I have? Well, I want to sort of bring a couple verses together. Well, at least a verse in with the meaning of Akev, because for years, if you've been part of the Hebraic Messianic community, you talk about Akev. What does it mean? And of course, in general, everybody calls it heal. It can mean heal, but when you look at the Ramban and some other people, they also talk about how it can mean the end reward is sin, and it can also mean because of, and they go into explanations of, actually Rashi brings it all together and puts it all, and so does, Ramban does too, and brings it all together and says how all those meanings are actually right, and says, if we follow the commands, we're going to receive our reward because of our obedience, et cetera, et cetera. I'm paraphrasing, by the way. But when we look at Akev, it also, when we think about heal, it's also, we've got to remember that heal, nefesh, that represents that flesh part of us. That is our appetites. That's our desires, our emotions, those things in us that seem oftentimes to lead the way and can lead us astray. And because of that, there can be a reward, good or bad. And I wanted to take us then, understanding heal, understanding that we can go into Jacob and all of the things that go with that. But I wanted to bring it to Deuteronomy 7:23-24, where it says, Yehovah, your God, will deliver them before you, and you will confound them with great confusion until their destruction. And he will deliver their kings into your hand, and you shall cause their name to perish from under the heavens. No man will stand up against you until you have destroyed them. And to me, that immediately brings you forward to Revelation, because the promises that come, the confusion that comes on the people, that how the kings who go hide themselves in the caves will cry out, and how no man can stand up against Yahweh, that the reward of all those that have come against him will come. We look in when we look in Revelation, we see the prophetic nature of that verse. Yeah, we know that what happens to the fathers happens to the sons, but we also see that it's basically an end time promise. Then the kings of the earth and the great men and the commanders and the rich and the strong and every slave and free man hid themselves in the caves, etc., etc. And they said, who is able to stand? Who is able to stand? Here's that prophetic nature of the verse. So we have, just as a reminder, if we are led by our flesh and by our appetites of our flesh, then we are going to face a reward that's very similar, or the same reward, I will say. But if we are always led, if we follow his commands, or led by the Spirit, because remember, as Darryl always says, as we say, the Torah is spirit. It's not dead. It's not just words. If we love Yeshua, have the testimony of his word on our mouth, then we are going to see his reward. So Akev does have that connotation of reward, because of, we have that word jumping in there as well, because of what we do or what we don't do. And he is the one that leads the way. Is there anything revelational about any of this? Not really, but it is a reminder in this Torah portion that of who we are and what we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to be led, because the reward of the wicked is great, but the reward of the upright, the righteous, if they remain upright and observe his commands, we see the deliverance. And I'm telling you, in this day and this hour, when we cry out, we want our voice heard. And it even brings you back to Psalm 91. When you think of the word heal, I think of lest you dash your foot against a stone. I think of those words, lest you dash your foot against a stone, because he's going to uphold us. He's going to protect us, which Psalm 91 is definitely an end time psalm that we should be praying that every day, making it personal. But then it also makes me think of Ikvot HaMashiach, which is, what is that? The footsteps of the Messiah, or the heel of our Messiah, which alludes again to deliverance. So in Ikhev, we see deliverance. We see the prophetic nature of the heel. We're reminded of who we are and how easily we can fall into pride and into those behaviors. But we're also given the promise of what's to come. And what are you doing?
Fixing your computer. Go ahead.
Thank you. Anyway, you're disturbing me.
Sorry.
You're disturbing me.
Multitasking.
But anyway, I could go on and teach on that for a long time, but it's not about that. So I see much more. Ikhev is also about the end, which all the word is. There's prophetic tones in all parts of the word, but think about the deliverance that comes our way. Think about, here, let me get to my verse. He will confound our enemies with great confusion. Think of Egypt. Think of them falling into the Red Sea, being drowned. Think about what's to come. Deliver their kings into your hand. Hallelujah. And no man can stand up against you until you've destroyed them. That's a pretty powerful reminder of what's to come. And it's also a reminder that that's who our king is. And we should live that out, enforcing the victory he's given us.
Yes.
So.
All right. Oh, good deal. Well, commentary on the Torah portion, as Sandy's brought that.
On anything.
Yeah, whether it's that or anything else regarding the Torah portion. Darryl, do you want to start with it?
Yeah, that whole thing about them shaking their fist at God is pretty profound. And we see that more and more happening today too. It's astounding. And what I'm noticing is that the spirit of the age is there's a real division going on. And Mark and I were discussing before the show began that what I'm seeing is that there's a sifting that's going on within the body, and that people who are playing church are all of a sudden starting to short circuit. They're blowing a gasket. And I've even asked pastors, I said, have you noticed people starting to flip out? And he says, yeah. And I said, because judgment has begun. We're right on the cusp, I think, of entering into Revelation chapter 4. I don't think there's any question about that. And however long God is merciful and gives us reprieve from that, but more and more we're going to start to see the shakings that we talked about. I mean, there are earthquakes happening in places who never experienced it before. And more so, we've got volcanoes popping off all over the world. Well, that's exactly what Yeshua said when he talked about in Matthew 24, the signs of the end. And so this whole idea that of covenant is what we have to come back to. And on Shabbat, I spoke on unity within the body and why there's such a lack of it. I mean, there are literally thousands of denominations out there of Christianity, and the division we divide over such silly things, whereas the enemy's got a plan and he's working the plan, and the enemy is more united than we are. And that's why he's able to accomplish so much more. I'm absolutely committed. You know what? I believe that dominion theology is actually possible, but it's never going to happen, which is why we have the book of Revelation and the book of Ezekiel. Because if the body of Messiah ever got together, if everybody studied their Torah, everybody studied their Bibles, if everybody prayed on a regular basis, if there was, fasting that went on as a spiritual discipline to get revelation from God, and if we all stopped bickering about silly, stupid little things, then we actually would be able to conquer probably the entire world for Messiah's sake. But because we're sitting there and we're, arguing over this, that, and the other thing, the enemy is out there. He's making money. He's conquering land and stuff like that. And we're getting left in the dust. But fortunately, praise God, Yeshua is still on the throne. And when he comes back to sort all this out, man, it's going to be ugly.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I would agree with you. We had heard of a lady that used to be part of our congregation that has essentially, I guess she used to say that we just hung the moon. Sandy and I hung the moon, just thought the most of us. And when we started pursuing the Hebraic roots of our faith.
No. When we changed our services, because we were doing that long before. So when we changed our services,
she basically thought we lost it. And it began a downhill spiral for her to where she has walked away from the faith. And
she's very sick.
And as a result, there's a lot of sickness and,
provision
issues, all sorts of things that just attacked her because, what's left, if we don't have Yahweh in our life. And, Sandy, you're talking about this because of,
and the end reward.
The end reward. We got the two sides of it. We've got the side of basically it's consequences. Consequences are good or they're bad. And it's we have to choose who we're going to follow, how we're going to follow. And when we come to the knowledge of the truth and we're responsible to walk within that, we're accountable to that which we know.
Are we going to be led by our head, which is representative of the spirit, or our heel, which is representative of the flesh?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I don't fault those that don't quite understand keeping the feast days or the Sabbath or anything like that, because they don't have a revelation on that. But if they're walking with Yeshua and they have that living relationship, that'll come. That'll come in time. They'll walk in it.
On early Saturday morning, I had an opportunity to minister to our Kenyan congregation. We have a congregation in Kenya that's partnered up with us, has asked us to mentor them. And so 3:00 in the morning, I was on the phone with them, and I was talking to them about what the biblical definition of sin is and the proper way to approach God. And we discussed specifically Leviticus 23. Because I said, well, do you have any questions? And they said, well, so there's more than one Shabbat if you go to Leviticus 23. And this is someone who already kind of had heard my teaching on this before, but for some of the new people, he was asking this. And so I said, yes. And then I went into the whole Good Friday thing and why the church misinterprets the day that Yeshua was crucified as Friday, because they don't understand that there's more than one Shabbat in the Torah. And they were so excited. I mean, you know what? I'm tired after that because then I got to go back to bed. Then I got to get up again for our service here. But I was so encouraged by just the enthusiasm that I'm getting, that every time I talk to these people, they're thanking me and saying, you know, we really like this teaching. And now, and this is the key part, we're going to go out and we're going to tell other people. And every time I get on a service with them, they're saying that there's new people there. And this is a small city. It's only a couple 100,000 people. It's not like Nairobi or anything like that. There's a couple 100,000 people, and yet every single time I minister to them, there's new people there. They're going out and evangelizing. They're going out and talking about this stuff. What are we doing here in North America? We're playing church.
Yeah.
And so I think we've got a lot of shaking off that we've got to do. And like Kev said, because Yeshua did it all, and so that we have to carry the torch for him.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, that's really encouraging, though, when you see people and the light comes on and you see how they like, oh, I never saw that before. I get that. Or when they say they have it so dispensationalized it to where they say, well, it still doesn't apply. You know, that can be like, really, you don't see it. It's one book. But when they say they see all of it coming together and they say it, well, it's relevant. It does connect. It connects us. Yeshua connects it all for us. And I love that.
Well,
hey, Mark. Go ahead, Darryl.
Yeah, they'll go to like Hebrews chapter 8, where it says that there's a change in the law. So that means that everything was tossed out. And what Hebrews 7:8 is talking about in change in the law, it's the priesthood. So it transferred from the Levitical priesthood to the Melchizedekian priesthood, which is Yeshua. That's the only change in the law. We don't have the sacrificial system right now.
Yeah.
Everything else still. So anything applied to the temple within Torah doesn't apply to us right now, the literal commands. Now, there are many that we can, of course, spiritualize and we can still apply. But all the other things, the Moedim, for the food commands and all these other things that Christians argue about, there's nothing in Scripture to say that they've been done away with.
Right. Yeah. So true. Very true. Hey, Mark, let's get your input on this.
Unmute. Okay. Awesome. I love what Sandi said. By the way, and let's bring Darryl in. I want to make sure everybody realizes that Darryl is one of those. He's one of those mid-trib rapture people. He thinks the trib is good, or the rapture is going to happen in the middle of the trib. And now, Darryl, we know that messes up everything else you say. So if you believe that, then we don't believe anything else that you say, Darryl. So just want to be sure everybody.
You went Christian on me, brother.
Okay, Sandi, you're awesome. I love you so much. It works with what you say, but in the same way, and I don't mean but in a negative way. In Psalms 104, it says, enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. And to talk about what will happen, we need to dwell on what the Lord said before that. And what you said in your section is exactly right, but let me read all the verses before that. And it says, and because you listen to these rules and keep and do them, the Lord your God will keep with you the covenant and the steadfast love that he swore to your fathers. He will love you, bless you, and multiply you. He will also bless the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your ground, your grain and your wine and your oil, the increase of your herds. The increase of your herds and the young of your flock in the land that you swore to your fathers to give you. You shall be blessed above all people. There shall not be male or female barren among you or your livestock. And he goes on and on up to where you started at 23. Verse 22 says, the Lord your God will clear away these nations before you little by little. You may not make an end of them at once, lest the wild beasts grow too numerous for you. And I lately, even more and more and more every day, am dwelling on the fact that I need to enter every thought, every prayer, every time, even out in the world when I'm with somebody or not with somebody and I come into a situation, my first thing is to remind the Lord of his promises and remind me of his promises. Remember, we were talking about the books that I wrote on prayer, and when we tell the Lord who he is in our life, it tells us who he is. And then all these other things that he says that he will do for us, like what you said, but the Lord your God will give them over to you. That is everything that comes against us. He will give them over to us and throw them into great confusion. Because I think that there are a lot of people out there that are dwelling on, or for instance, just as an example, they pray, and so, okay, I need to pray. So, oh Lord my God, can you please help my situation? Can you heal me of this? Can you please do this and help this person and this stuff here? They don't start off and they don't spend their time dwelling on the promises of the Lord and what the Lord said he will do for us. They spend that time dwelling on what he can do for me as far as my problems are concerned. And so on my end, just because lately it's been real heavy with me to dwell on who the Lord is and what he has promised me outside of any problems at all. There's a positive. Then it's like the blessings and the cursings. What all will go, and he starts it right off with, and because you listen to these rules and keep them, the Lord your God will keep with you the covenant and steadfast love that he swore to your fathers. And so that's where I come from this. What you had to say is 100%. And now I add to that, keep in mind day to day, hour by hour, that which the Lord has promised us for the good. And then these other things will fall in line. They will just fall in line. It's like the blessings and the cursings. It's almost like I'd almost wished it would have been just do all these things and then, hey, the Lord's going to take care of that. But we have to have that. Some people have to have the balance of both. So there you go.
All right. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Well, that's I'm going to let that kind of be the summary there for this part of this segment on the Torah portion. Love that. Love the comments and the perspective. I wish we had more time to discuss it, but time is in front of us. We got to move forward. Hey, so here's the next segment. This is I don't know where to even go with it. I'm just gonna start. Okay, so over at Infowars. .com and also newswars.com, there Alex Jones actually had some breaking information regarding the New York Times, and this is how I'm going to lead it out, but I'm going to take us with this back into some history. And he was breaking some news, I think it was on Saturday, that the New York Times plans to trigger a race war. And this was leaked. It says, New York Times plan to trigger race war leaked as deep state pushes collapse of U.S. economy. And so as he broke this news, it was very interesting, and he laid down all the facts. If you want to go listen to that interview, you can go to newswars.com or infowars.com to get the breakdown on it. He does a very good analysis of it. The leaked memos show that their push in the Russian collusion narrative failed. They admit it failed. They tried to push it. They tried to get Trump impeached from that. Because it failed, therefore, they're determined to start a race war heading into the 2020 elections. And they're and in the midst of that, trying to crash the U.S. economy in order to hurt Trump. They do not want Trump reelected at any cost. That's what they want to do. But let's take a step back, because a lot of people are saying the race war that's been going on seems to be something that really has kind of picked up speed since the 2016 election. And as we've seen in the last year, there's been a rhetoric of racism, Nazi. I mean, if you listen to the news, it's always, this is a Nazi, you're a Nazi. If you're white, you're a Nazi. If you like Trump, you're a Nazi. If you just stand on good old American values, you're a Nazi. I mean, everything's a Nazi, but all of this stuff.
When in reality, it's them. In
reality, they're pushing a narrative, and I'm really sick and tired of hearing that. Let me watch my words. I'm not sick and tired.
Yeah, what are you saying?
So I let those words fall to the ground. I'm just saying it is exasperating to continually hear that, but we got to understand what is the cause of that. So I want to go back to an article that actually kind of takes us back into 2013. And really, a lot of these things even predates that, because I pulled up a whole bunch of different things in a web search looking for dates of different things talking about a race war. And if we have time, I can actually go into that, but we probably won't. But this is an article from October 3rd, 2016, where it says Rothschild's insider warned of planned U.S. race war. So October 3rd, 2016, this is prior to the November election in 2016. And where it says in 2013, a whistleblower and Rothschild's family insider warned that the elites were pushing for a race war in America. And they wanted to establish martial law in the U.S. to stifle dissent and circumvent free speech, and to further their global agenda of a one world order and mass depopulation. To achieve this, they need to do some social engineering by instigating a race war against the black folks at home. Let you understand this. They want to instigate it against the black folks at home, African Americans, so to speak. So in the Waking Times, it reported that I've just been told the current scenario is this whole race war thing. That's the plan at the moment. That's from James Casbolt, a.k.a. Michael Prince, May 2013. Who was president in May 2013? It was Barack Obama. As if following a script or some explicit stage direction. Doesn't it look like there's a script being followed? I would agree with that. And this is 2019 now. This is talking about in 2013. The narrative of racism and division is being pushed by mainstream media, and the idea of an American race war is edging further into the public consciousness. This is 2013. Now that I'm reading from. No one among the ranks of the citizenry stands to gain anything at all from the bloodbath between blacks and whites, but here in 2016, we suddenly find ourselves on the precipice of such an apocalyptic clash. Who benefits? In 2013, James Casbolt, a.k.a. Michael Prince, a self-proclaimed Rothschild's family insider, explained to Carrie Cassidy of Project Camelot how the world political elite are planning to catalyze a race war in America as part of a conspiracy to advance the agenda of depopulation, to destroy the black race, to further destabilize the nation, and to create the conditions necessary for martial law in the U.S. Casbolt claims to be part of the Rothschild's bloodline, someone who has spent his entire life being groomed as an assassin for the world's most powerful family, a super soldier, as he puts it, now serving time in prison. Some consider Casbolt's credentials to be rather shady. However, in many interviews on the subject of the world's ruling elite, he has presented insight and information that bears out as being both well-informed and shockingly prescient. In this case, he was asked by Cassidy again over 3 years ago, and okay, this article is 2016, so back to 2013. what he thought of the global elite were planning in order to expand their empire of control in coming years. His reply seems almost prophetic today against the backdrop of riots in several major U.S. cities and the emergence of the George Soros-funded fifth column revolution movement, Black Lives Matter. Casbolt's reply this is how he replied: the enemy now is they're instigating a race war in America. They're social engineering it, a race war against the blacks and whites, because they're trying to reduce the population. So they're targeting blacks in America as the first group. And it's an extension of what's going on in Africa with them depopulating the blacks in Africa with engineering AIDS and things like that. So they're engineering social situations in America now, and that group is being currently targeted. The blacks in America. There's a lot of race issues being brought into the media, like Obama's talking about it. Let's talk about race. That's one quote. In the media, a lot of things are focused on race to get people's mindsets geared up for that. And that's from Michael Prince. Now, let's take this 2019. Let's move forward. How much are we hearing about race now in the media? In the mainstream media, it's everywhere. And it's all, and I'm sitting back and looking at it. It's like, this is not the America that I know, but it's what they are bringing up to such fever pitches more than any time in my lifetime that I've ever seen. And I was born in 63. I think we've had a pretty big peak in the mid 60s with all sorts of different issues with the civil rights of African Americans or blacks and Martin Luther King, and how things actually in the 70s and 80s began to simmer out, and how people began just to recognize that, we're all red-blooded Americans, so to speak. We're all red-blooded people that we love God. We can actually get along and live beside each other. But with the advent of Barack Obama coming in and this narrative, we see that it's come to a fever pitch. Now the New York Times is talking about, we have to have this race war by the 2020 election. So I'm just talking about what they want to put in front of us and some of the things that we might be on the lookout for. This person, this Michael Prince guy, in essence, is saying, it's a continuation of social engineering programs from Haight-Ashbury in the 60s in San Francisco. The Manson family, the Charles Manson murders, and he was programmed at China Lake. We've had China Lake recently in the news, where that base was destroyed in a recent earthquake. For the social engineering, Charles Manson, was talking about Helter Skelter, which is a race war, an apocalyptic race war in America between blacks and whites. And the Beatles triggered that, the Helter Skelter song. And then that was the Manson murders were supposed to trigger that. And that was the race war was supposed to start in Haight-Ashbury, the hippie colony in San Francisco. They've often tried to, with the Fourth Reich being based on the West Coast, they've tried to trigger this Helter Skelter apocalyptic race war in California with LA riots. They tried to do it again, and they're going to keep trying to do it until all hell breaks loose between the blacks and whites in America, because the black race is being targeted currently in America, the African American. So there you go. I mean, there's more to this. That's going back to a 2016 article relating what he said in 2013. So what are we seeing today? We see, even this last weekend, we had things going on in Portland, Oregon, where Antifa went out to the streets creating all sorts of riots and havoc. And prior to that, mainstream media actually came out and talked and said that Antifa they actually said Antifa is mainly made up of African Americans and blacks, which is not true. It is actually a complete fake news when they said that. Mainstream media said that. I listened to the report, and when in fact Antifa is mainly made up of these social justice warriors, many of whom are whites. But what are they doing? They are actually attacking anybody and everybody that stands for good old American values. And so we have these instigations. President Trump came out and actually said they need to be looked at as a domestic terrorist group because of what they did and because of the events, the way they were orchestrated this weekend. showed that definitely they are. So these all have been planned. There's an article back in 2015 that documents detailed plan for civil unrest and martial law in Baltimore, where the same type of things were put out. There was actually a publication that I have here where they said, this is what you're supposed to do in terms of hand-to-hand combat with the props that you can use, not to use, the aggressiveness, the behavior that you're to do in order to stir up these race wars and race riots. And this document was put out by Friends of Democracy. So here we are, 2019. It's the heat of the summer. They're stirring things up. They're pushing things forward. And the New York Times says now we need to increase the propaganda so that we can create this racial divide to bring it to violence within the streets of America. Well, Darryl, you were talking about some things before the show started. I didn't catch all of that, but does this play into some of this helter-skelter type of end times reality that are playing forth? You mentioned it here, and we were talking about the Torah portion, but what do you think about this, the instigation of the literally the civil unrest in America?
Well, it's all propagated. And if we understand the Georgia Guidestones, that the number one commandment is to maintain human population under 500 million. That is the goal of the New World Order. It's the goal of the Illuminati. It's the goal of the Luciferians. It's the goal of, whatever group that's tied in with the Rothschilds, the Habsburgs. We've got the DuPonts and the Rockefellers in the United States, amongst others, Carnegies. And all of these families, you see, at the core of it, what we have to understand is that they believe that they have been enlightened. That's where the whole idea of Illuminati comes from, illumination. And they have been enlightened with Luciferian doctrine. And unless you subscribe to that, then you are regarded as a lesser being. The reason why the blacks are being targeted is because if you look at Madame Blavatsky, who was the founder of the Theosophic Society, they believe in an evolutionary process, and that different races are at different levels of evolution. And so you've got the blacks and the Jews down here, and the whites are at the top of the food chain until they actually advance to godhood. That's where they're going. That's what they believe. And so the reason why they can look at another human being, you see, biblically, we're all created in the image of God. We were all sinners. Those who have been saved are saved by grace. So whether you're Jew or Gentile, this is what Paul is emphasizing within the scriptures. There's no distinction between us spiritually before God. We all have the same DNA. We all have the same characteristics and everything else. We all have the same spirit within us. But according to them, there are levels of people, and the people on the lower end of the evolutionary scale don't have a reason to live. And we're, in fact, what they call useless eaters. We're taking up resources that they believe that rightfully belong to them. Mm. And so the whole push toward this depopulation thing, and there are many, many different techniques that they use. There was a guy, and I can't remember his name, but he did a documentary. It's called Agenda. And then he did a follow-up one called Agenda 2, where he traces the source of all these different conflicts that we have. Government, Islamic terrorism, environmental stuff, all these different things. And it all is traced back to the same source. It's amazing the research that this guy did. But what he showed is that the devil has deceived a bunch of people thinking that they can achieve Godhead. That was the original promise in the garden. Okay, that's it. You will become like God. It's the original lie, and everybody's been chasing after that ever since. And they have a plan that they're working. I did a message a couple of weeks ago on Psalm 127. I know a lot of people in the comments section were online for that. And I talked about how God builds the family, but what the communists have purpose to do is to destroy the family. And that's why we've got racial wars. That's why we've got on InfoWars this morning, Paul Joseph Watson is talking about how There are 12 million rats in Los Angeles. Homelessness is on the rise. You've got leprosy returning. You've got bubonic plague that's returning. Los Angeles has become a third world hellhole. And much of the United States, Austin, Texas, another liberal city, San Francisco, same thing. And what they're doing is they're destroying the very fabric of society. God created the family unit in order to be the model for society. It's what society is built around. So you've got the nuclear family, you've got the extended family, then you've got the congregational community, and then you've got the body of Messiah at large. And things are supposed to go out from there. And that's why Psalm 127 says that we are to train up our children. We're supposed to build the family. We're supposed to teach our kids the proper things of Yahweh. What the enemy wants to do is to take us away from that, push perversion, push lies, and make it seem okay. And if you look at the 45-point plan for communism to take down the United States, they're well on their way. And this is why I get back to the fact that if we don't start uniting, if we don't stop dividing over stupid things, if we don't stop twiddling our thumbs and talking about theology and doctrine instead of getting down to what's true and right before the Lord and do Micah 6:8, what does the Lord require of you but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly before our God, to do unto others as you would have done unto you, to enact our faith and to serve one another, we're going to get obliterated, and we are getting obliterated. That's what it all goes back to. The Haftarah portion this morning from Isaiah 49 through 51, it's right in the middle of the suffering servant songs. And it talks about the suffering. I love Isaiah 49 because that's where we got the name of our ministry from, A Light to the Nations. God said to his son that you will be, not only will you restore the lost tribes of Jacob, but you will be an Or L'Goyim, a light to the nations. But then he goes on to the promises and says that starting off with the Haftarah portion in 49:14, he says that you have said that I've abandoned Zion. And everything that he says after that is the promises that he's made. He's not left us. He's not forsaken us. Yes, he's allowed us to go through hard times. Has anybody experienced hard times who are in the body over the last little while? Is it just me? No, it's all of us, because God is preparing us. He's getting us. Philippians 1:29 says that we were actually called to suffer for Messiah's sake. And that's something that people can't get their heads around. But if we persevere, the beauty that God is going to give us, Isaiah from 40 right through to 66 talks about the blessings that are going to come to Zion. And all the Gentiles who are called by his name, who are part of the Commonwealth of Israel, are going to be recipients of that. And so we need to hold fast. The world is going to go to hell, literally. And when you see what Sandi was talking about in Revelation chapter 6, and how they're shaking their hands and they're saying, hide us from the Lamb, what the elite think is that they're going to escape the judgment of God. And they're not. But we are. We were not appointed unto wrath. We are going to be captured away. We are going to be removed. We're going to be protected. And I'm so grateful to God for his plan on that.
Yeah, I loved how you weaved in that the Haftarah portion in the midst of this. I liked how you did that, Mark. I want to hear your thoughts about this, because you bring a perspective, considering I was just a child in the 60s, and you may have been aware of more of the things going on in the 60s. And
no, that's good. Actually, that's where I was going to start from.
Yeah,
that's really good, because I was going to say, actually, all of us four, we're, except for Sandi, who's like 19, 20, I think. But
I robbed the cradle.
Huh?
I robbed the cradle.
I know. And the rest of us, though, we're of enough age that we can now remember hearing, especially today, what I was just saying, the expression, it's but now we know that it's really, or but now we know. And for instance, you mentioned HIV. So back in the early days when HIV was brand new and everybody had their theories, everybody had their ideas. Where did this come from? Why do we have this? Did aliens bring it to us? What monkeys did it come from, and all that kind of stuff. Well, now we are pretty sure we know, where it came from, and it was developed for a specific purpose. And you mentioned that. What we don't know a lot of, though, is that the people that develop these viruses and different things that attack people, they are specific to a certain type of people. And HIV, from what I understand, was one of the very first viruses that was put out as a test to find out what Darryl, we can hear you. What are you doing? As a test, so that the results from that led them to another thing, led them to another thing, led them to another thing. And now I understand there is an actual virus out there that has not been let go yet, at least as far as the public knows, that specifically what's the word I want to use? Specifically goes only or affects only people that do not have Caucasian DNA. And literally, if you are 100% Caucasian, this virus will affect your DNA system and get in, and it's like HIV. Sometimes it can bother you right away. Sometimes you can carry it for a long time and the whole thing. So it's not just blacks, or as what did you say, the black people or whatever you mentioned earlier, but Asians and Spanish, anybody else. But one of the things after it was developed, I guess, for what I've heard, is so stupid, is that the planet is so full of people that have intermingled through the years that almost everybody has something in their DNA that is not 100% Caucasian. I mean, even Hitler. So I'm done. I'm done. But that was just something I wanted to bring up is that, and now we know why this was done. It is a process of still being developed against specific people. So,
and that's really true. Is people, we have to understand that that there are targeted disease, they're gene targeted diseases depending on your genetic makeup. And it's actually, it came out a few years ago. I read an article how the United States, because back in where the Soviet Union was a big threat, they were looking at diseases that could target specifically those that were of Russian heritage. But if you think if they're going to try to target them in terms of having a disease be kind of a weapon of war against a nation like that, which is mainly they're made up of Caucasians. Well, I won't say that. In Russia, they have a whole bunch of different people that are mixed in their area. But if you are targeting that, you can wipe out entire populations and
entire races. Races of people. And this development, the last one I was talking about, it actually came after Hitler. Can you imagine Hitler getting a hold of something like that?
Well, but what makes the thing about it is that we actually have psychopaths that are just like him, that are actually in charge of these programs. Yeah. And because some of the things that have really come out is, we continue to watch these mass shooters that go out. They go to the Walmart, like the Walmart in El Paso and up there in Dayton, Ohio. There's some common threads. These guys are on SSR, SRIs, those psycho drugs. They're in some type of program, or they've got a parent that is involved in some type of DARPA program where there's the mind control. And that they have been under some type of psychiatric care, where you can actually go to that point of, yes, they are, you call it Monarch, Operation Monarch, MK Ultra. They keep changing the name on it, but essentially mind control, where they put the person under mind control to go out, do these shootings in order to create a scenario. Like right now, what are they doing? They're trying to go after our Second Amendment rights. But why did they go to El Paso? Because specifically the guy said he was going after Hispanics. Why do you want to do that? Because a white guy that goes after Hispanics is to create a race war, is to continue to generate these things. So they want to take away our guns, and then they want us to fight among ourselves. But the scenario is always the same. And there's always these extra shooters, by the way, not to digress,
that
but
are hidden,
that never come out. The first reports, there's more shooters. Then they clean up the reports and say, no, it's just this one guy. But it's this continuous narrative of people that they're in the shadows, but literally they're not the psychotics that go out and they kidnap a child on the street and completely, do the Saw type of, horror flick, which I never watched Saw. Or any of the Saw, where you have this horror flick of somebody that's so psychotic, they put somebody in a really bad situation, and the horror just unfolds. That happens. That's psychotic, but that's low level. These guys are so high level, they are using systems in order to ultimately bring about their goals that are no different than Adolf Hitler. And he was just simply playing a role in the midst of some other shadowy figures. I mean, we have to look at how history's played out and what are the common themes. It's not conspiracy. History tells us how it played out. How did he even get up? And he didn't get up into his position because of he was a charismatic figure. He had a lot of things that he could manipulate, but somebody had to back him. Somebody had to say, yes, you're the guy. That's the same way. How did Barack Obama get in that position? A guy out of complete obscurity. Who knew who this guy was that made his way up from an obscure senator of Illinois, an obscure community organizer, and makes it all the way to the presidency of the United States for 2 terms? How does a guy get that? And has such a shadowy background that even his birth certificate is still in question of who he was. And when you look at his, and I'm just going to say it, if you look at the picture of his alleged father from Kenya, looks nothing like him, but he does look like a certain figure out of Indonesia who has exact characteristics, who actually had a close relationship with his mother. Just saying, there's photos out there. But when we look at all these different things, how does that happen? Because they're shadowy figures. There's powers behind it.
All of them are puppets.
And it is, like Darryl was saying, and bringing it back into the picture, to depopulate the planet, to cause race wars, to push forward an agenda so that they can bring in their person that will resolve all the issues. And it's just one of these things that's playing out right now. I think that's what this article is really saying. So beware of what's happening, and don't fall into it. And whether we're black, white, Indian, red, yellow, whatever, it doesn't matter. Understand they're trying to pit us against each other. And this is what the InfoWars and the analysis by Alex Jones actually said. And by the way, all the things that Alex Jones has been saying, they said he was crazy before. He's being vindicated because it's being played out before our very eyes right now. So worthwhile going back and looking at. So, well, hey, I'm looking at my time. We're really at the end of the broadcast.
Got excited.
I got excited. Darryl, you brought in the Haftarah portion. You slipped it in there for this long, which was really good. I loved it how you did that. And really good show. Just kind of wrap it up. Any last words you guys want to say before we close out?
Yeah, I do real quick. I want you to see something. You guys have seen that picture, right?
Yes.
That's actually Antiochus Epiphanes. That's not really Jesus. Just thought I'd let you know.
Isn't that interesting?
That's a picture of Antiochus Epiphanes. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Hmm.
Well,
You guys have no sense of humor whatsoever at all. I just
We don't know how to take you sometimes.
Okay, it's just, anyway.
Talk about out of nowhere.
Well, he was talking about, I don't know. So it's
Conspiracies. Yeah.
whatever like that. Yeah. Something, I don't know. Sorry. Anyway.
Y'all don't think that I'm really off the wall. All of this stuff we can back up. I can back it up with news stories, actual news. So
Up against the wall. Up against the wall. Then you could be off the wall. Once you get up against the wall, then you can be off the wall.
And then you can go beyond the walls.
Beyond the wall. That's right.
There you go. All right. Let's get over the wall here.
I'm not under the law, and I'm not over the law, but I am the law. So.
There you go. There you go. All right. So as we close out here, just want to let everybody know you can go back and watch all these broadcasts, not only here on YouTube, but you can also go to messianiclambradio.com and catch those. If you like what you hear, give us a thumbs up, share it on your social media, even if it's not that, even if it's just simply to say, hey, we've got programming here on Lamb Radio that really has a broad spectrum of information. Just put it out there so people can see. It'll bring them back over here to what's going on here on the Lamb Network, and so people can know, and it'll connect them to things like the War Room, to Let Us Reason Together, to all the different live shows and programming that we have here. You want to just post it, get the word out. And stay tuned tomorrow. Tomorrow's edition of Let Us Reason Together is called Chameleon Church. Don't want to miss out on that. And we'll be back next week, y'all willing. So I want to say thank you very much to Darryl Weinberg, Rabbi up there in the great country of Canada to the north. Thank you so much. And Mark Smith, thank you for joining me there again from North Carolina, right there on the border of South Carolina, and where the great shaking's taking place. And Miss Sandi Craig, as always, sure appreciate your input and connecting with me here on the show. And all of you that have been in the chat room, appreciate your comments. As always, we want to say thank you and God bless. So on behalf of Let Us Reason Together, this is John Craig, and shalom. And
let us reason together, says the Lord. Come now, let us reason together, says the Lord. Come now, let us reason together, says the Lord. Come now, let us reason together.
Okie dokie.
It's still live.